So we're going to start with a couple of new process mining features. And the first one that we want to show you is called the input data screen. And as the name kind of says, it will make things easier to upload data for process mining when you create new apps, but also when you want to add new data to your to customize your existing apps. Biggest benefit in here is it will be faster, it will be easier, and right now you'll use SQL to SQL queries to define that, and with the new feature you can use that UI. So let's just go for a quick demo. So this is the process mining product, and now when you create a new app, you always choose a template, and based on the template you'll have to deliver different data. Before you had to read documentation to know what to upload. But now on the right side, when you create an app, you'll actually see which tables are required. So in here, you'll see there's two tables for this template that you'll need to have, a cases table and an event table. Those are required. And if you have them, you can add due dates table and a tags table as well. You don't need to upload those to get the template to work. If you click on any of these tables, you'll see what the contents need to be. So these are the fields that should be in there. And then you'll see some properties and the data types of those fields that we expect. Now, as you start adding those tables, and let me, okay, like this. So I can now drag my tables in here. And you'll notice that as I do that, the tables will be removed from the required tables, and you'll see which ones you still need to upload. Now, one of the things we commonly see is that you don't have the exact same format as we expect. So here I have a table called invoice events, and I actually want to use it as my event log input. And now you can simply map it to be like that, and then you can proceed with loading the data without having to touch any of the SQL queries that are in the product. If I press next for each table, I can then also set all the settings for the fields and map those as well. In this case, I don't have a case ID field, but I want to use my invoice ID and can do the same mapping. When I press next, it will load the data. So this is much easier than what you had to do before. Let me also show you how that works for existing apps. So first of all, this is our SQL editor. So usually when you're working with data and process mining, you'll do your work here. With this button, you can go to the input data settings to change any of the settings that you set when creating the app. So in here, I can now also add additional data to my project and immediately set any data types for my fields and any of the properties for my columns. And I see I just hit an error on Alpha. So let me just try to refresh to see if I can show this to you today. This is our alpha server where we're trying all kinds of new features. So that's too bad. I'll show it on this screen then. If I add a new table in here, like so, then it will show up in here. And what you can do next is you can then set all of the field types for the new fields that you're loading. So if you want this to be a number, then you change this to numeric. And essentially that way you can set the types for each of your fields. Now for a date, for example, a lot of times your date time format will be slightly different. So you can set that in here and then your date will be parsed properly. And finally, you can set some conditions on what you expect from these fields. So for my case ID in here, I expect it to be unique, otherwise my queries wouldn't work well. So in this case, I actually want this to be an error whenever I have duplicate values. So now every time you load data, these checks will be done, and that way you can add it, and that way you can make sure that these records are always unique. So this makes data loading a lot easier. And then let's see if I can get this one to work. I don't think I'll be able to. So in our new apps, these input queries, they will all be gone. They will be replaced by using the input data screen. So if you have any of your existing apps and you want to adjust those, what you basically need to do is make sure that any properties that were set here are configured in the input data screen UI. So in here, I can see that this field needs to be loaded as an integer. This field needs to be loaded as a Boolean. So you'll set that in this screen for that table. Once you've done that, you can basically change all references of other queries to this input.sql file to point to this input file. So rather than event log input, this will need to point to event log raw, and you can get rid of all those input queries. So that's everything I wanted to show today. Basically, the input data screen will make it easier and faster to load data for process mining. Let me now hand it over to Robert to show you another feature for the process mining product.
Thanks, Martijn. Let me share my screen and we can dive right into it. So the feature that I want to talk about today is our new business logic editor. So this is our new UI-based editor that allows you to create custom data and custom metrics into your application in a much faster and easier way. So this helps both the data engineers that are working on creating the apps and also the business analysts that need to add more data points to their analysis or metrics and KPIs. As far as benefits go, the main one is that especially for creating custom data or custom fields, this new editor now essentially allows you to do so without needing to create them in the SQL transformations. So it reduces the need to use raw SQL. It also means that you can create these custom data points a lot quicker, and you don't need to run transformations, which, as you may or may not know, they take quite a few moments of time. So without further ado, let me just go into one of our process mining environments like Martijn just did and show you the feature. So what we see here is kind of a standard process mining application. It's accounts payable app. So we're looking at some invoices. We have around 1,000 invoices and some events. So I go to edit mode. I'll be able to see the data that I have in this application. So these are all the tables that are part of my app. I have the cases, due dates, event log, and tags. And these are all the metrics that come with the application or were created afterwards. What you'll see in terms of new actions here, you'll have the new button on the right-hand side, which will allow you to create either a field or a metric. Previously, this only worked for metrics. You also will have the option for the fields as part of the tables, because the fields will be, you'll have to create them in one of the tables that you already have. So essentially, if I want to create a field, I can create it from the cases table, and this will open up the new editor. This editor is consistent across both fields and metrics. So when you create a field or whether you create a metric, you'll find the same editor, and it's a completely no-code drag and drop experience. So on the left-hand side, you have your logic blocks. These are all the operators and functions that you can use. You'll notice, for those of you that were familiar with our metric editor beforehand, you'll see that you have quite a lot of new options in terms of operations that you can use, including comparisons, logical blocks like if, and also text operations. We do plan to expand this list to include more and more operations as the feature gets more enhanced over time. So in here, if I want to create a random field, I can maybe just do just a quick sum here. So I'll just take one of the reference fields that are in the cases table because the field is in the cases table. So maybe let's do like a case value, and we'll add it with a, let me go back. So we'll add it with just a currency that's 100. We do have a preview panel. So here you can see your values, and as they change based on what you compute. So you'll see a preview of all the rows in the cases table, and this essentially will become a new column in the table itself. And you'll be able to save this. And if I go back to the data manager into the cases table, I should be able to have my new field. I can use it on a dashboard. Some use cases, I already created something beforehand. So here, if I go into preview mode, we have a breakdown or labeling of our cases based on the priority. If I go and take a look at this data, in the cases table, you'll see that this is based of an if statement. So if the case value is higher than 500K, then it becomes a high priority case. Otherwise, it's a low priority case. So we're essentially labeling our data directly in the dashboard editing experience without needing to use SQL here. And we're going to use that. We're going to use that on the charts directly. So this increases or reduces the need of using raw SQL. It also makes editing a lot faster and allows you to create more and more complex expressions and KPIs. Like I said before, this applies for both fields and metrics. So you'll get the same look and feel with the metrics. You also have access to the aggregates that you can use. We do plan to make these available for fields as well.